I was a good, quiet, progressive liberal who was informed by NPR and HBO's The Wire about the modern plight of the African American. I've been with my wife Asia for 3.5 years, and I'm starting to understand the shit black people have to go through. We need to talk more about these things, and not in the gloves-on, coded, safe language for way. A lot of people mistake for sounding progressive for being progressive. That's not true. Shit's better, but it isn't over. Yes, we have a black president. Well, kinda. This thing people have called the one-drop rule, where if you're a little bit black, you're all black. The truth is, most black people don't have a straight lineage to Africa. White people, Latinos, Native Americans, Asians have been having babies with black people for hundreds of years. It's only recently that it's become okay to raise that baby, to be with that baby, to not sell it into slavery. Some movements get lost because a little progress calms a lot of people down. They think it's over. But those who are still affected by it know it's still there. Remember, during Katrina, the white people were called scavengers and the black people were called looters. And remember, it's legally okay to shoot a looter. Problems exist, but they're smaller and easier to hide, more pernicious. Yes, slavery ended 150 years ago, and official second-class citizenship ended 40-ish years ago. But in terms of people, my wife's grandfather had to get past white guys with sticks to vote, and his grandfather was a slave. Okay? That's not that long in terms of people. Now they just put one voting booth in a whole neighborhood and ask for a driver's license and try and keep you from getting to college. I had to drop some knowledge at a colleague at work who said minorities get all the scholarships. My wife applied to 100 scholarships, 100 scholarships to get into college. She got 3, a partial. She had to work like me to keep a roof over her head and food in her belly. I applied for 1, and I got it. She's 3rd in her class, I'm 60-something. Minorities don't get all the scholarships. They have to apply to more of them, because they don't have as many backfalls. My parents are good middle-class people. They have good, strong middle-class jobs. They could afford to help me out if I need it. Her parents don't. Her mom's on disability. Her dad shuttles from one minimum wage job to the next. He's doing a little better now, but they got 3 kids. We were pulled over a few years ago, and the cop approached me with his hand on his gun, asked me to put my hands on the wheel. I was frightened. It was scary. He asked me if we had any drugs or weapons on us. He wanted to check the trunk. I was just flustered and shocked. I stumbled, and I was worried and kept doing this. And when the cop left after a little bit, I didn't ask. Asia told me that was the nicest cop she ever had. Her family, when they get pulled over, they get searched. You see, black people don't trust the police because the police don't have a great history with black people. The police were the guys with the batons in front of the voting booths sometimes. The police were the ones arresting fugitive slaves and returning them to the South. The police don't have a good track record with black people. Especially nowadays, when every couple of weeks, and you can look into this, every couple of weeks some unarmed black guy is shot by the police because a spoon or a bag lunch was thought to be a gun. I think there are only a few hardcore racists out there, but they have a huge effect. Their propaganda makes us afraid of black people. They spread a fear, they spread a stereotype. A lot of racists spread fear that people internalize. There's a fear of black people in this country that white people have that needs to be gotten rid of. There are some people who say they don't see race and that we're a post-racial society, and they're wrong. The thing is not judging or defining or limiting somebody because of it. Okay? And there is one race that doesn't see one particular race. White people don't seem to acknowledge that white people are a race and a culture of their own. We are a race and a culture of our own. We just tend to conflate it with normal American. We just tend to conflate white culture and white race with American. That's one of the things that you would have noticed about the coded language in the last election. Barack Obama wasn't American. Other cultures are sanctioned off in their own little bits, except white culture. And that was and still is by design. That's why there aren't white cultural centers on campus, because the rest of campus was and still is a white cultural center. Imagine being a kid growing up, and 90% of all the TV characters who looked like you were gangsters, pimps, hoes, addicts, dealers, toms, mammies, sambos, or magical. They're not people. That's what you saw as a kid. Occasionally there'd be a musician or something, but never a doctor or a lawyer, and certainly never a hero or a main character. Sometimes a president. You know, there'd be a president who looked like you, but only when the next most likely event was an asteroid hitting the world and ending it. I'm a filmmaker, and I wonder how that would have had an effect on me. I recently finished college, and I worked very hard to get where I am, but I would have had to have worked a lot harder if I were black. My friends and I got caught breaking into a construction site when we were 18. If we were black then, we'd be in jail now. I'd be in jail instead of shopping with my wife. And my wife likes to go shopping with me because she isn't followed. When she goes shopping by herself, she is followed. And it isn't because the clerks are out to follow black people. It's because they have this false cultural conception that black people are thieves, that black people are criminals. She doesn't want to go apartment hunting with me because she's convinced we can't find a good place if she's there, that they won't sell to a interracial couple or a black person. I said we shouldn't let the possibility of some racist interfering with our lives determine how we're going to live. We really shouldn't let this kind of fear dictate our lives. And we met our families this last weekend. We talked about kids, you know. We didn't want to have kids until we had good, stable careers. And now I don't want to risk having a son until I know he can walk through his own neighborhood without being deemed a threat. I hope it isn't chilly that night, too, because if he wears a hoodie, he might not come home. These things affect all of us. If we want equality, we better start acting like it. If we want liberty, we better start helping others get it as well as ourselves. If we want freedom, we gotta make everybody free. What's a more American ideal than fighting for our rights? And these things will only happen. These will only be ideals until every American has them. Until everyone has them. A lot of people, including me, like to sit back and keep their opinions to themselves because it might make them more comfortable, but it won't make anything better. We have to have this conversation. Things stay bad when we don't care. They only get better when we do. It's hard. It's a hard, hard fight, and it isn't over. And it isn't just equal rights for black people. It's women, gays, everybody. One of the most inspiring things to happen last week that we didn't talk about was Malala Yousafzai, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but Malala, the girl who was shot in her head in Pakistan for being an education activist for women. Taliban boarded the bus, shot her in the fucking head. She got up and spoke in front of the UN on her 16th birthday. That's some good news to go along with the bad news. There are a lot of people who like the way things are because they profit from us, but the rest of us, most of us, are too convinced by our own powerlessness to do something, to say something, anything. Stating your own opinion will never, ever change the world, don't get me wrong. I'm not Jimmy Stewart. But it will change, it could change a mind. And if we change enough minds, we can change the world. Anything's possible, so why not try? Why not try, at least, to make the world a better place? That's my opinion. Enough of my opinion. What do you think? And seriously, say something.